Welcome back to the Meeple Marathon. Today we are going to be playing Arkham Horror 3rd Edition as part of our 13 games of Halloween. Arkham Horror 3rd Edition is easily one of my favorite Fantasy Flight games, ironically enough. It is up there with Mansions of Madness and Imperial Assault, in my opinion. I guess Journeys in Middle-earth is also up there as well. They all kind of fit, but this one's not app-driven by any means. And it's just very unique. I don't have, I've got lots of action selection games, but this one really just kind of hits all the right notes. Unfortunately, it is a table hog, which you can see, and it also requires a fair amount of setup. I think that's one of the biggest drawbacks, that it doesn't hit my table more often and probably other people's tables more often, is just the sheer fact that like all of these decks of cards that you see, I was shuffling at one point or another. You're pulling out specific cards. There's a lot of cards, a lot of cardboard, and it's not like you can just leave it set up and roll right into the next game, because you literally would have to pull up all of the locations, reset them to the new, unless you're replaying the same scenario. This deck over here is going to be different, and just so many things about the game would change that it's almost not even worth it to just leave it set up. So that's my little soapbox there. Otherwise, I'm not trying to make excuses. This is a perfect time of year to be getting Arkham Horror out, and today we are going to be playing Tyrants of Ruin, which is from the Under Deep Waves expansion. And we can see here that says, deep beneath Devil Reef, the tyrants of Yalnathli, I don't know if I pronounced that right, rule the dark waves, yearning to surpass their ancient mortal frames. They stir below the water, sending their deep one progeny to corrupt the surface world. All right, so this says starting space general store. I did have to look this up. We will, because there's actually no general store location out here right now, but we'll cover that here in a second. And right now, this reckoning, the only reckoning symbol that's out right now, will say spread terror in each neighborhood with a deep one monster. So terror is new to this expansion, and it basically replaces the anomaly deck. So we have our terror deck over here, and instead of when you hit 5 doom in a neighborhood, it's actually upgraded to 6. When you reach 6 doom in a neighborhood, then you actually get to remove all the doom from one space. You put a terror marker in the middle, and you also are going to take a card and put it on top of that neighborhood's stack. Now, with anomalies, you were having to complete an anomaly encounter if there was an anomaly in your neighborhood. You did not get to complete a normal encounter, which meant that you could not progress towards getting clues. Terror, however, is a little different in that you do a terror encounter and then you can choose to do a regular encounter. So you actually kind of do both on your turn. Otherwise, this deck works pretty similar to the way anomalies work. I'm going over all this as if you guys are familiar with how to play Arkham Horror. For now, I'm just going to stick with the fact that you've seen a game of Arkham Horror before. I've got a playthrough on the channel where I cover, more how to play, and as I start playing, I will walk everyone through my actions and why I'm taking them. But I'm just kind of covering what we've added to this game that's a little bit different than other people may have seen. So, Deep Waves expansion also added these travel locations. So it used to be that everything would have to be connected by a street space like so, and the board would, you'd be able to travel from one board to the next. But you can see that this board up here, these two, the Innsmouth Village and Shore, are removed from Arkham. So that's kind of over there. You actually have to travel to those two locations. And how you do that is by simply saying, all right, I'm going to take the ferry to Arkham. So if you make it to this space while doing a move action, you pay $1 and then you can move instantly without taking up one of your movement allotted movement, you can end up in this ferry space. So you pay to take the ferry. Here you would take a taxi, and the taxi ends you up over here, or it can end you up over here. And then there's a train spaces for other games, but the train isn't in this one. So you essentially get to jump from one spot to the other. So you can go from Velma's Diner to Gilman's house here in 1-2 movements. It's as if there was just one street space in between it, but you have to be able to pay. Now, if you end up being on one of these spaces during the encounter phase, they do have encounters just like the streets had their own separate encounters. These travel spaces have their own separate travel routes, have their own separate encounters, and the instructions say that generally you, as part of your encounter, will find a way to progress to the other location. So don't feel like if you don't have $1 on you that you'll be stuck like on this side of town when you desperately need to get to Innsmouth. There's also the Devil's Reef, which is way up here. It's like a unique mystery space. They don't really tell you much else about it, but it does have its own encounter deck. It is a space you can go to, but it also, if Doom is added to that space, because it acts as if it's like a fourth spot on the Innsmouth Shore neighborhood. Think of it like that. Think of it as if Innsmouth Shore has 4 locations in its neighborhood instead of the standard 3. So normally you cannot put Doom in a street space, you cannot put Doom in a travel location, but you can put Doom in the Devil Reef, and that will count towards the 6 in Innsmouth Shore overall. Okay. So I think I covered, there's, some new keywords and things like that. There's lots of new, items, specific items that were added. There's new headlines that were added, things like that. But that covers the basics of everything new you might be seeing. And so we are playing a scenario from Under Dark Waves, and I have, without really trying, but turns out I chose 3 characters from the newest expansion, the Secret Order, or Secrets of the Order. And so these 3, Winifred, Agatha, and Mark Harrigan here, are all from that expansion. So I'm kind of just mixing up as much of it as I can. There's not a whole lot from the Dead of Night expansion, but there's not a whole lot in that expansion. We are using the little monster holder there. So what these guys brought with them was really just a few more keywords, additional keywords, some really nice special talents in my opinion. You'll see that they have a lot of talents here, innate talents, as part of their loadout, instead of like a Tommy gun or a knife or something like that. These guys have talents as opposed to starting weapons, which was a lot of what the base game characters started with. Winifred here, her thing really is her main talent, and then her 2 cards I chose really center around optionally delaying herself to be able to take additional actions or re-roll dice, gain additional focus. Like if you fail on a skill test, you can delay to re-roll, and then if you fail again, you actually get double the focus tokens, things like that. So I really like this card. Anything you can do, I can do better. I mean, it only says anything you can do, but how can you not just finish the line? Agatha Crane here is pretty much a clue finding beast. She's got 4 lore, but she can here with her talent and her camera here, spirit camera, she can basically continue to add clues out onto the board, and then she's got a great stat for gaining those clues. And then last but not least, we have the soldier Mark Harrigan here, who he can take an additional he can perform the attack action as both his actions in his turn, which normally you can only attack once, but he can do it twice. And he also can He can, become delayed to perform an immediate attack against a monster that he just moved into its space, even if it's an additional action. And here he can suffer damage to do direct damage to a monster. So if there's one that you really don't want to let get to you or activate, he just kind of sacrifices himself. He throws himself down on the grenade and takes care of it. So we're going to have to find him some health or some way to heal. And then he can really be a powerhouse. So this is kind of like my fighter, my clue finder, and then kind of my everything person. Hopefully can fill in the rest. So that's kind of I really enjoy playing this game with 3 investigators. I don't know why, but that's just my preferred way to play. No, you can play with just 2. I think you have to play with at least 2. I don't think you can play with a single investigator, but I could be wrong. I've never tried. This is my preferred way to play, even solo, because it's easily manageable. All right. So let me, we already covered the terror. Let me read for you these next 2 cards that give you the flavor text of the scenario that we are in, Tyrants of Ruin. So we have Caught in the Act. You arrive at the Gilman house in Innsmouth to find no trace of the colleague that summoned you. His things are scattered across the room, and you approach a wide-mouthed local man attempting to slip out through the cracked and dingy window. You overpower him easily and locate a shining golden statue in his grimy rucksack. When you seize it, he begins to rave, "Thieves, upstarts! You will not deny my king and queen their joyful ascendancy. They will feast on your marrow." The screaming continues until you force a gag between his wide, slime-specked lips. So, seems to me like he's turning into a deep one. So basically, this is saying if we put 4 Doom onto the scenario sheet, then we flip this card over. That's going to advance the story, probably in a bad way. And then we have this next one reads, "The golden figurine set with precious stones and human-like bones is warm in your hands and fills your mind with visions of the sea. The bulging eyes and rubbery skin of the cultist you detained warn that you should limit your exposure to this twisted reliquary. Your friend warned you that something terrible was coming to Innsmouth and mentioned that he found a secret key essential to locating 3 extremely dangerous relics. Is this the key he mentioned? You need to continue his investigation and quickly." So this one says if we put 2 clues on the scenario sheet, flip this card. So very similar to how Arkham Horror, the card game, works. You are basically placing bad things and good things, doom and clues onto your scenario sheet, and that's advancing the good and bad sides parts of the story. So that's all we have for right now. That's the only information we have right now, which is one of the fun things about this game, is that it is, when you start, you just kind of can do anything. It always starts kind of slow. You're just kind of wandering around trying to find clues, and then bam, it just, the intensity hits you. So let's talk about briefly how we go about playing the game of Arkham Horror. If you have no clue how to play Arkham Horror, pay attention. So there are 4 phases to each round, and we are just going to keep playing until we've either been defeated or we have reached the scenario finale in some way. So there's not like a finite number of rounds. There's not a timer or anything like that. So we always start with the action phase. That's going to be where our 3 investigators can take their turns. And on an investigator's turn, they get to take 2 actions. Now, normally you can only perform each action once. So you cannot just move twice or attack twice, with the exception being Mark Harrigan, who can attack twice on his turn. The actions that you can take are to move. When you move, you're simply just going to go 2 spaces in any direction you want. Remember, if you're using a travel route, you move into here, you pay your money, you instantly appear over here, and then you move out. You can, however, pay money to move additional spaces up to 2 more. So you can pay up to $1 or $2 to move an additional 1 or 2 spaces. So you could move up to 4. And you can see there's not, moving up to 4 could take you from 1, 2, 3, 4. Or even 1, 2, 3, 4, and end up over here. It's plenty of movement. You can gather resources. Usually I just do this if I either really need $1 or I have nothing else to do. But gather resources is simply gain $1. You can see each investigator is starting with some here, but we'll need a little bit of money throughout the game. Focusing is taking one of these skill chits over here and adding it to your player card, essentially increasing your stat throughout the game for the rest of the game until you lose it. Now, sometimes you lose it based on, a negative effect that happens in the game, or you can always spend a focus token, put it back into the pot to re-roll a die. So these numbers here next to each person's traits are important because that's the number of dice you roll when you, say, pass a skill test or you're searching for clues, things like that. So, for example, Agatha Crane here, when she's searching for clues, may roll, test her lore, and it may say, for each success you gain a clue. Well, so she gets to roll 4 dice on her lore check, whereas Mark Hannigan, he's not going to be the one we send to do it, or Winifred here, because they're just going to roll 1 dice. But we could give them focus tokens to increase that number. So gaining a focus token is simply a choice you can make if you feel like you need it or you have nothing else to do. All right, so you can ward. Ward is removing the doom that's going to start accumulating across town. So during the Mythos phase, each round we're going to be adding doom to the board, and we obviously cannot let doom just spread willy-nilly because then the town will fall, so we'll lose. And remember, if you get up to 6 doom in a space, then that neighborhood falls into terror, so obviously all bad. So to get rid of the doom as it's accumulating, you do a lore test. Again, Agatha Crane's going to be our warding person. And again, for each success you get, so the more dice you roll, the more chances you have to remove doom from a space. Attacking is the same way, except you're using the strength test, and obviously you have to have a monster in your space. But when you do so, each success that you roll, depending on your dice roll, is a hit against the monster. An evade test is trying to get away from a monster. So if you are engaged with a monster, the only thing you can do is either attack it, try and evade it, or you can focus. So you can take a second to focus, then attack it. But if you feel like your strength is bad, say Agatha here, you can instead use your observation to try and sneak past it or trick it and then get away from it. So doing an evade test uses the observation skill, and if you successfully evade a monster, say it's your last turn, you're going to flip that monster over to exhaust it, but you also get 1 more action. Usually, almost always, people use that action to run away. You can also research, which again uses the observation stat. And observation allows you to take clues you've accumulated and put them onto the scenario sheet. And then the last thing you can do is trade. If you're in the same space as someone, you cannot trade these starting items, but you can trade items that you accumulate throughout the game. There are some additional actions that might come with, I'm trying to think if any of these, I don't think so. Sometimes you can gain an item or a card or a condition that's going to give you an action that you can take. So, but those are separate. So after each investigator has taken their 2 actions on their turn, that we just covered the list of them, you're going to go into the monster phase. This is probably the most confusing phase, in my opinion, to the game, and can be kind of a turnoff for people because there is a difference between readied monsters and exhausted monsters, and then engaged monsters. But there's 3 phases a monster can be in, but there's only 2 sides of a card. I think that's where people are thrown. So if you are on the kind of dark side of the card, where there's not a whole bunch of information, that card is readied. What this information is giving you, other than the name and the type, is where it spawns and how it moves. So that's the text here at the bottom. A readied monster is ready to run around the board and try and find you. This number here is the movement value that it can move up to. exhausted monsters are going to be on this side, which has all its stats for fighting you. So that's kind of confusing. But engaged monsters are going to be pulled off the board and are going to be next to the person. So we'll put them like this, and they'll, say be engaged with Agatha Crane. That's when they're engaged is when you look at all of these stats. So you can see you only have to hit this guy once to defeat him. When you try and beat him with a strength test, however, you roll one less dice, and if you try and evade him, you roll one less dice based on your skill. And there's also some other text here. This stuff at the very bottom tells you if he is successful in attacking you, what kind of damage you take. In this case, you just take 1 health hit versus 1 sanity hit would be over here. So that was a very brief description of the states the monsters can be in, but these are the steps of the monster phase. So I'm going to try and go through these slowly. Each readied monster activates. So if they're on this flipped side, they're not engaged with someone, but they're not exhausted. If they're ready to go, which means you can see their movement, type of movement here at the bottom and their movement value, then they move, they activate. You follow this text down here and you move them up to that number. Then once all ready monsters activate, any monster that's engaged attacks. So if a monster is able to move on its activation phase and move into a space with an investigator, then it comes over here, it becomes engaged, and in that next step it will attack. Last but not least is that any exhausted monsters ready. So if you have exhausted a monster in some way, so it's flipped over on this side like this, but it's out here on the board, that means it's exhausted. That means during that first phase it did not move, it stayed put. But now, at the end of the monster phase, he will flip back over, which means the next monster phase, he will chase you around. So it makes sense once you start playing. It is a little confusing to read it in the rule book or possibly for me to explain it, but hopefully it'll make sense once you see it in action. The next phase will be and this is number 3, the encounter phase. So this is where you are hopefully gaining clues. You'll know that there's a clue in the neighborhood if there are clue tokens in the center of the neighborhood. So we're going to go to those places and try and get encounters that are going to give us clues. Whichever neighborhood you're in, you're going to draw the top card of the encounter deck and choose the specific location within that neighborhood, read through that encounter, make the choice, do the skill check, whatever it may be. Hopefully that's going to have a clue in it. Now the way clues get added is from this deck over here. So these cards are specific to this scenario. They kind of match up with this card, but they have the same card backs as these neighborhoods. So as I'm told to put clues out on the board, those cards get seeded into the tops of these decks. That way you know that eventually if you keep poking around in these neighborhoods, you're going to find a clue. So that's the encounter phase. Again, it will make more sense once you see it in action, at least in my opinion. Last but not least is the Mythos phase. That's where we take our Mythos cup. I happen to have a Mythos bag because I think it works better. And you're drawing out tokens here based on the player count. So it's going to be 2 tokens per investigator, so 6 total each round are going to be drawn out. And each one of these does something either good or bad. Like this one, for example, puts a clue out on the board. That's good. This one spreads doom. This one, you read a headline. Headlines can be good or bad. This one is the Revenant token, which we looked at earlier. For right now, we only have 1 Revenant symbol out, but we'll see more. But that basically kind of, the Mythos Cup helps push things along. It helps add clues to the board, but it also adds doom to the board, things like that. And that's it. After the Mythos phase, then we just circle back around and we start with an investigator phase. So that is a super quick and dirty how to play Arkham Horror. So as not to make sure this video gets going too long, let's just go ahead and get started with our playthrough of Tyrants of Ruin. Alright, so technically as part of setup, we need to place initial clues and initial doom, all that sort of stuff. So to put out initial doom, you look at the card here and you can see that this card also told me where these two starting monsters were, but we need to go ahead and put some doom out, and the doom and the clue tokens are double-sided. So we get a doom up here, we get a doom up here, you get a doom, you get a doom, and we need two more. 1, 2, here and here. Okay. Then we need to spawn 3 clues. So you do that by, drawing the top cards of this deck. So they gave you this handy dandy little card holder so you could draw from the back and draw from the front. So you'll know the neighborhoods that clues are going to be coming from next. Essentially, you're always going to draw the clue cards from the top and the doom cards from the back, so you're not going to know where the doom is coming from. So we're going to go ahead and take 1, 2, 3, and we're not going to look at these, and it just so happens to be that there's 2 clues in Innsmouth Shore, which is where we are, which is actually kind of nice to start out with 2 clues right there, and then 1 in the south side way down here. So those go in the middle. Now what we do is we take these cards and we take the top 2 cards from the neighborhood deck and we shuffle them up. So since the backs of the cards match, we don't know which one of these are the clue, but we know if we explore in the south side for the next 3 turns, we're bound to come up with a clue at least one of those times. Now, I'm not sure if there is a specific ruling on what to do if you draw 2 at once at the beginning, but this is how I do it. I always draw 2 cards, shuffle them up, and then what I do is I take the very bottom one here. So that could be the clue, who knows. This would essentially be the top 2 again, and then shuffle. So you could end up with 2 in the top 3, or that one could be the clue. We don't know. All right. So we have placed doom according to the scenario sheet. We have placed our initial clues. The last thing you're going to want to do is spread doom once so that you can determine where the unstable space is. So in this case, we're going to draw from the back of the deck here, and it's East Town. All right, so then we're going to flip this over and we look to see which one of these locations has this symbol here. So you can see this one has the doom icon in it. So Hibbs Roadhouse is going to get a doom. All right, so where were we? East Town, Hibbs Roadhouse gets another doom. Now this goes face up right here. So at a glance, we can always tell which one is the unstable space. Right now it's Hibbs Roadhouse. For example, let's just look at this monster here a little bit more closely. Normally you would spawn at the unstable space, and you might notice they don't have a movement icon because they're a lurker. They stay put. So she looks like she is essentially going to stay in the Devil Reef. I always want to say Devil's Reef. Stay in Devil Reef. But when she activates, instead of attacking someone, she's going to place 1 doom in the unstable space, which already has 2 now, just by chance. So obviously we're going to need to go down here and ward away some of that doom right off the bat. There's also a prowling abductor down there, so we definitely have our plane of action, I guess you could say, for this first turn. So let's go ahead and get started. It is the investigator phase. It does not matter who goes first, but each investigator has to complete their turn, complete their 2 actions before the next investigator goes. So let's see. I really want to keep someone here. This guy's not as much of a worry for me. He is going to hunt us down. But this person up here is going to continue to place doom out there, is really kind of frustrating to me. So basically, ideally, I send one person up there to deal with that person, but then I have removed myself from the neighborhood because I'll have to draw from the Devil's Reef. But if for some reason I were to draw the Remnant token, not the Remnant token, the Reckoning token, we'll have to spread terror in each neighborhood with a deep one monster, which means we would put one up there, which might not be the end of the world. We'll see. Let's start with trying to remove as much. Actually, let's start with taking care of this Prowling Abductor. So, to get here, we need to take the ferry. The ferry goes from here to here, and it costs $1. So I'm going to start with Mark Harrigan, our soldier. And he's going to do a move action. He's going to go 1. From this space, he's going to spend one of his dollars. I'm going to actually put these up here because I'm going to need space for cards. He's going to spend one of his dollars. That's going to instantly transport him here. He still's only used one movement action, and then he's going to come down here. All right, so that was one action. His second action is going to be to engage attack, essentially. So in your attack action, you at the beginning of your attack action, you can engage a monster if you're not already engaged with one. So we're going to take this guy. We're going to flip him over, technically to his exhausted side. But now we can see his statistics. We only need to hit him once. Our strength statistic, however, is -1, and after this monster attacks, you become delayed, relentless. This monster cannot be exhausted and can only be damaged by an investigator in its space. So you cannot perform some kind of spell that hits somebody somewhere else on the board. You also can't evade him, which is weird that they even gave him an evasion stat. And if we allow this monster to attack us, we would be delayed, but we're going to do the attacking first. So Mark Hannigan has a strength of 4, -1, so he's going to be rolling 3 dice. Now the game comes with these standard D6s, but those aren't fun. They're also kind of small in comparison. I'm not exactly sure what the size of them are, but I have some special dice that I love to play with here. I have my blessed dice because a success is normally a 5 and a 6, but if you're blessed, it's a 4, 5, and 6, which means you have 50% chance of hitting a success. And then I have my normal bone dice here for my standard rolls. I should have taken the time to dig all of them out. All right, so normally I get 4 dice. I have to give one back, so I just need 1 5 or 1 6. All right, so we got it. So you can see that these on these dice, the 5 and the 6 have the star icon. All right, so we were successful. We did 1 point of damage to the Prowling Abductor. That's all it takes. This guy now goes at the top of the monster deck because just like this other one, whenever you draw bad stuff, you're going to draw from the bottom where you can't see it. He did also, just looking back, he does not have anything. If there was a symbol up here, we would have gained that as like a prize, but we didn't. Let me just check and make sure. Yeah. So nothing else for him, but that was a successful turn as far as Mark Harrigan is concerned. He got rid of the Prowling Abductor. All right. So now the question is, do we allow the deep one to stay up there, or do we stay put? I definitely want to get the Hibbs Roadhouse here because I don't want to allow 3 things to get in here. So Agatha Crane is going to follow Mark. So she's going to go 1, 2. She's going to spend $1 to ride the ferry. And now she's going to take a ward action, which is her lore. And there is no, there's nothing fighting back with me. So I get to roll all 4. And if I hit 2 successes, then I get to remove 2 of those lore, and I will get a remnant token. All right, so I did. I got 2 successes. There we go. And so both of these doom are removed from the space, and I get a remnant token for being so good at warding off things. Remnant tokens thematically are the kind of leftover aura of these mythical beings and mythical artifacts that are creating the doom and whatnot, and then you can use those remnants to do things like spend them on spells or to reroll dice, things like that. So they come in handy. They're always good to have around. All right. And again, a very successful turn for Agatha Crane. So now the question is, Winifred. Is Winifred going to go up and fight the entranced hybrid? Or do we just allow the entranced hybrid to put a doom back in this space because we know that's where it's going to be? Agatha's there, and do we try and go ahead and get a clue token right where we are? I think we're going to go ahead and stay put. So now there's important icons at the top of each area that you want to pay attention to. These essentially represent what you might have to pay and what you could gain during encounters. Now that's not always the case, especially if it's a clue card, but for example, the police station here, we may need to test either observation or influence to gain a weapon. Velma's Diner, if we pay money, we can restore some health. At the Hibbs Roadhouse, we can pay some money and restore some sanity. So keeping that in mind, I think I'm going to go ahead and look around, and I don't have a remnant. I have a 2 influence, and this would be gaining an ally or restoring some sanity. This one would be testing strength, and this one would be testing observation, possibly gaining an additional clue. So I am going to go ahead and, as my 2 actions, take a movement action to go right there. I know I have 2 movement, but I only need 1. I want to be in the Marsh Refinery. And then I'm going to, in this instance, I could gather a resource and gain another $1. But I think what I'm going to do is test. See, I think I'm going to focus. I'm going to focus my strength. This way, I am better off when it comes to taking on that hybrid deep one next turn. So I think that's what we're going to focus on. All right. So I've now taken my 2 actions for all my investigators. We move on to the monster phase. So each readied monster activates. Normally it's by moving, but this entranced hybrid has the lurker keyword, which means they stay put. And all they do is place 1 doom at the unstable space. So we know where that is. We know that's here. If you forgot, you just look over here to Hibbs Roadhouse, the one with the doom icon, and you place that there. So lurkers don't ever chase you down. They lurk in one area and usually throw down doom. So they have activated. Each engaged monster deals damage. Nobody's engaged with anyone. Nobody's in the same space. Each exhausted monster readies. We don't have any exhausted monsters. So we are good to go. We have made it through the monster phase with minimal detriment. Now we move on to the encounter phase. So Winifred, hopefully here, is going to gain a clue. These guys are not in a neighborhood where there's a clue. So unfortunately, they are looking to simply probably they're going to get the option to pay money to recover some sanity, which they're not going to do. So we'll see what let's do them first, since they're both at the same place. So we are in East Town. So we're going to draw this one. We'll start with Mark here, as we are at Hibbs Roadhouse. So Old Man Hibbert is holding court by the fire, trading increasingly painful puns with a crowd of people about his age. You or an ally recovers 2 sanity. Okay. The bartender sighs as you approach. A little liquor makes the puns not so bad. You may spend $2 for you or an ally to recover 2 sanity, so 2 additional sanity. I don't need that, so this was kind of a waste of an encounter. That goes to the bottom, and now Agatha is going to get this one. She's also at the Hibbs Roadhouse. A pair of strangers with out-of-town accents interrupt your drink with a few questions. Test observation, which is 3. All right, we got our 1 success we needed, so we passed. And then this says, if you pass, you play it cool with the plainclothes feds, impressing the Sheldon gang smugglers that you supply this gin joint, gain hired muscle, If you fail, they put it on you, become wanted. They pin it on you. Okay, become wanted. All right, so we're going to gain hired muscle. I believe that is one of these key items here. You always want to keep this one in alphabetical order because you don't ever just randomly draw from the top. You always are given an exact card, hired muscle. So here we go. So Agatha Crane now has hired muscle. This one says, once per round during your turn, you may spend $1 to deal 1 damage to a monster in your space. That's actually kind of handy because she does not have a lot of strength. So I'm going to try and keep these adjacent to the character. So pretty good. That was a good encounter. All right. And then last but not least, Innsmouth Shore. We're going to draw the top one here and we're going to look for that clue symbol. And it is. Okay, so this is one of the cards that is specific. You can see it's got this text in the lower left corner, to Tyrants of Ruin. It's an event encounter. And if we are successful, we gain a clue token. Remember, we are looking to get 2 clue tokens onto the scenario sheet to be able to flip the one card and advance the nicer part of the story. So we are at Marsh Refinery. You suspect at least 1 employee at the refinery can be bribed to sneak you inside. Test your influence, which is 2, unfortunately. If you pass, you discover a box of fossils and shells from deep beneath the sea. Okay, I'm not supposed to read that far ahead. Okay, so I have to test influence. So unfortunately, that's only 2 for Winifred. Oh, but we got it. That's all that matters. That's all that matters is 1 success. So we were successful, ladies and gentlemen. Nope, we're down here. If you pass, you discover a box of fossils and shells from deep beneath the sea. Gain 1 clue from your neighborhood and a remnant. Okay, so we have a remnant and we get to take one of these clues. And that's it. If you fail, blah, blah, blah. All right, but we don't need this anymore. This now is going to go into the discard pile. And I believe it goes on top. No, it goes on the bottom. It goes down here. All right, eventually that space, those cards are going to be shuffled back in and placed at the back. So it's kind of like a pandemic effect where the neighborhoods that you've already had Doom come into are going to continue to get Doom. And you're just going to continue to draw from the clean part of the deck, which is the top, to spawn clues. So pretty sure, let me just double check. It's been a hot minute since I played Arkham Horror, and I want to make sure I did that correctly. Oh, nope, that one goes on top. Okay, so this is now the unstable space, which is interesting. I guess the powers that be can sense me getting closer. All right, so the unstable space is now the Marsh Refinery where I am. Okay, all right, so each of us have had an encounter now. Pretty successful round, I'd say. And now we go into the Mythos phase, which is the least favorite part of the game. So for each investigator, we need to draw 2 tokens from this bag. They say a cup. I don't understand why they call it a cup. Why they don't just tell you to put them in a bag. I don't know, but so it does somewhat matter who's drawing, so we're going to continue to go in our turn order here. We're going to start with Mark Harrigan. And he spawns a monster. So we simply draw the back card here, and it's another Prowling Abductor. I did shuffle these. Spawn at street nearest prey. Move toward and engage the lowest influence. So 2, 3, 2. So I get to choose. Let's definitely put him right here. So I could have put him either here or here. They both have the same influence. So, all right, Mark Hannigan also is going to deal with a freaking gate burst already. All right, that stinks. So gate burst, you're going to take the top card of the event deck, and we're going to place 1 Doom in each space of that neighborhood. So we're going to take this one here, and it's going to go into Miskatonic University. So we need to get us some Doom out here. So we go 1, 2, 3. We need to count. Is there 6? Nope, we're good. So then you're going to take this card like this, and you're going to shuffle these up. Very nice. Okay, that was Mark. Agatha. She's doing a headline. So now we've got some news. Sometimes this is good, sometimes this is bad. It says, new wave of crime in the streets. Cops have no leads. Street toughs linked to Irish mob, by AP Jessup staff writer, Arkham, Mass. Headline, you suffer 2 damage unless you discard 1 item. Well, I'm certainly not going to discard my person. I don't even think I can. Technically, there's supposed to be a discard pile for the headlines. So yeah, I suffer 2 damage, unfortunately. Nothing I can really do about that. Alright. 2 damage. After you suffer 1 or more horror. Okay, that's what it was. And Agatha's also going to get the spread Doom. So when we spread Doom, we take the top card back here, which is Miskatonic University, and we are looking specifically for the science building, and that's going to get a Doom token. Alright, so you can see how the pandemic style of shuffling the cards back into the area that you draw from is making this worse down here. Alright, so Winifred here is going to, she gets the Reckoning, and so the only Reckoning symbol we have out right now is here on our card. Spread terror in each neighborhood with a deep 1 monster. So terror is going to go into, I believe, because there's a finite amount of rules about this extended neighborhood here, I believe this is going to go into the South Innsmouth Shore, and then this is going to go on top of there. I don't believe that goes directly into the Devil Reef space. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong about that, please feel free to let me know in the comment section below. And we have terror. So really quick, let me just remind myself. Terror is spread terror in the unstable spaces neighborhood by placing 1 Doom in that neighborhood and attach 1, it should be 1, okay. So this is now the unstable space. So this gets this, and this gets this. So whew, that was a nasty round. Luckily though, that means that there's a lot nicer tokens in the bag coming up. So these actually stay out until we empty the bag. All right. Whew, back to the action phase. So we didn't get to add any more clues. I need to get, after you gain a clue from your neighborhood, you may place 1 Doom in your space to gain an additional clue from the token pool. If you do, flip this talent. All right. Okay, so Agatha wants to probably ward off this Doom and then come down into this neighborhood to try and get this clue. So Mark needs to, and actually Agatha really needs to be down here. Oh man. But Mark needs to take care of this guy first. So yeah, because Agatha can't go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's too many spaces. Okay, so Mark's got to go first. Mark, unfortunately, just moves into here. And he's going to engage and attack. Been there, done that. We know this guy. We're familiar with this fella. Alright, so this was a miss, technically. Now, we've got some options. After you end your movement in a monster space, or after a monster moves into or spawns in your space, you may become delayed to perform an attack action as an additional action. Or, at the end of your turn, you may suffer any amount of direct damage to deal damage equal to 1 less than the amount to each monster engaged with you. So I could take 2 damage and take him out. Or at the start of your turn, if you are delayed, no. You may perform the attack action, no. Alright, so that's what I'm going to do. Because this guy's going to delay me anyways. So I'm going to take 2 damage. Two damage to knock this guy out. And now we're done. Okay. Alright. And unfortunately, that's all we can do. Not much of a turn for Mark. But he cleared the way for Agatha, who's going to go 1. No. She is going to start by warding away Hibbs Roadhouse here, just because she's here. Or do we want to ward away the South Church? No, we're going to ward away Hibbs Roadhouse. Okay, so she got 2 successes. She only needed 1. So she's only removing 1 thing, so she doesn't get her remnant she wants. She'll move, and now she's done. Alright. God, this is scaring me over here. Okay, Winifred. Yeah. Let's see. If we allow that thing to place Doom out here, it's going to put another terror token out here. So unfortunately, I feel like Winifred has to go up there and deal with this thing this time. So she is going to move up here and engage this monster. And it is after this monster attacks, move 1 Doom from its space to the scenario sheet. So we don't want that to happen. Okay, so we are engaged with this monster. Let's put this right here. And we get to roll 3 dice. -1, so only 2. We need 2 successes. So it could become delayed. Alright, yeah. Okay, so hold on. I can become delayed, or once per round when you would fail a test, you may spend 1 focus to roll 1 additional die. Okay. Spend a focus to roll 1 additional die. If you still fail the test, choose a skill that you do not have focused. Focus that skill twice. Okay. Alright, so I get to roll 1 more die. Or, after you roll dice, you may become delayed to roll 1 additional die for each die that is not a success. So, really in this same way, I'm just rolling 1 more die. And it was a bust. So, I had to spend this, but now, if you fail that test, choose a skill that you do not have focused and focus that skill twice. So I'm going to go right back to my strength to make sure I can take this thing out. And there we go. All right, so this stays engaged with me. I'm going to suffer the consequences here in a minute, because all of my investigators have activated, so we move on to the monster phase. There's only 1 monster on the board. It's engaged with me, so it doesn't need to, it's not readied, actually. It's exhausted. It's readied side up, but engaged monsters deal damage. So it's hitting me for 1 of each. Boom and boom. There we go. And that's it. Very simple, very straightforward. The attack and defense and all that stuff is not overly complicated in this game, which I appreciate. All right, now the encounter phase. So right off the bat, Winifred cannot do an encounter because she's engaged with a monster. So we're just going to come back down here. Let's do Mark first. He's in the streets, so they have their own special encounter card here. He's in the scenic. Sometimes something glimmers in the shadows beneath the trees. Test observation. Okay, and I failed. So very simply, let's go down here. If you fail, you pause to look but can't see anything of interest from the path aside from a passing deer. Okay, so nothing too bad there. All right, now let's hope that we find the clue in Southside. Will it be the clue? It is. Ooh, we're getting pretty lucky with these. All right, we are at the South Church. You may spend $2. Ooh, I don't have $2. Darn it. To provide funding for Father Michael's outreach mission to Innsmouth. If you do, he tells you everything he has learned about the seaside village's unnatural lineages and the pagan rituals that regularly occur there. Gain 1 clue from your neighborhood, and you or an ally may recover 2 sanity. Are you serious? I guess technically I had to have money, and I couldn't have made it down here. Alright, so this then is taken and shuffled back into the top 2 cards. So I could draw it again, and I know what I need to be here. I need some money, which Winifred has. Alright, so that was kind of a bust. Alright, Mythos phase. Give me some good stuff here, finally. Alright. Mark is spreading doom. So at least the doom space, the unstable space is moving. Hibbs Roadhouse, we know where that is. And a monster. Spawn at street nearest prey, highest observation. Which is Winifred. Alright, yeah. So, street is there. Agatha gets a clue, so we are going to put another clue in Southside, which is good. So, 2 cards. And there we go. Okay. And a blank. I'll always take a blank. Winifred is also going to spread a clue, and it's going to go to East Town. All right, East Town. And a headline. Okay, the headline. I'm not going to continue to read all this flavor text just for time's sake. Draw and resolve 2 additional tokens from the Mythos Cup. Planetary Convergence nigh. Okay, well, there's actually only 2 tokens left in the bag here. Innsmouth Shore, and it's going at the Marsh Refinery. Oh, come on. All my 3s are sitting at the top here. And this is the last token out of the bag, and it is another blank. Okay, so all of these can go back in, but we're done with the Mythos phase for now. So back to the action phase. All right, whoops. I forgot to place out my clue tokens. So there should be a second one here and one in East Town. So the question is, do I just jump down here? Do I send Mark over here to deal with the terror that's spreading over here? He's just not good at the ward action. So I think I really need to get this second clue going here. Okay. So, yeah, he doesn't have a remnant. Or should we go up here? I would love to have a gun. I'd love to heal too. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. Okay. Boom, boom. Okay. I changed my mind midstream. So I'm going to go there, and I am going to take $1. Yeah. Agatha here is going to attempt to ward away this doom in her space, and she was successful. And she's going to gain $1 because we know that we need at least $2 at some point or another. All right. And yeah, see, I almost, I don't know. Maybe I should have done something different with Mark. Okay, so up to Winifred. Winifred is engaged with a monster. Your only 3 things you can do are focus, evade, and attack. So we're going to go ahead and attack. We get to roll 3. Oh, man. Okay, hold on. After you roll dice, you may become delayed to roll 1 additional die for each die that is not a success. Okay, so I missed 3 times. I can roll 3 additional dice. I'm basically just going to re-roll these, but then I'm basically done. I will become delayed. Okay, so we got 2 successes. This thing only needs 2. So we have defeated it. We get a remnant token for that, for defeating this thing, which is good. And now, so when you become delayed, you just tip your character down. But let me just read for you from the Learn to Play guide what it says for delayed, because I believe that I can do something here. So, during the game, you may become delayed. When you are delayed, tip your investigator token on its side at the start of your turn during the next action phase. Okay, you stand up your token, but you can perform only a single action that turn. Okay, I didn't remember that additional text, so we are now delayed. All right, that's fine. I'm pretty sure I still get to do an encounter though. So we are done. Let's move on to the monster phase. There's only 1 ready monster, and this one is going to move 2 towards engages the highest observation, which we know is boom, boom. So it makes it up there. It becomes engaged, and it attacks for 1 and 1. This isn't good. Poor Winifred here. It's all by herself. We left her behind at Innsmouth Shore. Actually, I'm going to put these on this card. This card can take 1 of each, so before it's removed. Okay. And encounter phase. Everybody gets a turn. So I'm engaged now, so Winifred doesn't get to have an encounter. Let's start with Mark. Let's see, is Mark going to get lucky? No, we're not that lucky. Velma's Diner. You tuck into a hearty bowl of stew and chat with one of Velma's waitresses. You or an ally may recover 2 health while the young woman complains about the new line cook from Innsmouth. You watch him through the service window, sneezing wetly on the grill. Gross. Okay, so I need to pass Will, which is 4. So I automatically remove this. And now I need to pass a Will test, which is pretty good for Mark. And I passed, so I don't become tainted, which is always good. That just sounds gross. Okay, but no clue. All right, so we are in South Side now. Oops. No clue. Okay, so South Church here. The church sanctuary is tranquil with only the sound of rain on the roof. You or an ally recovers to sanity. Don't need that. You hear the door close softly behind you, and you see a young boy dripping wet, hungry and alone. You may give him $1 and a few kind words to make his life easier. If you do, you or an ally recovers to sanity. I mean, that's a nice gesture, but I don't need to do it, so I'm not spending the money. I need that money. All right, kind of a bust round for encounters. So let's continue with the dreadful mythos phase. Blank, I love it. Spread doom. Oh, I'm a little worried. Ooh, and Smith Village, I'm actually okay with that. Esoteric Order of Dagon. Esoteric Order of Dagon. Up here, there's already one there. Okay. Spreading doom again. South Side. Ma's Boarding House. Ma's Boarding House. Okay. Another blank. Spreading clues. So this one's going to go in Mystotonic University. So this comes off. And we take the top two. And we shuffle them up. Okay. And this goes back on top. And we put a clue right in the middle. And last but not least, what do we got here? What do we got? Terror. So terror is, hold on, I just got to remember, spread terror in the unstable space, which we just determined was Ma's Boarding House. So south side here, terror here. Okay. And I can spend influence to remove said terror. Okay. Alright, that was the mythos phase. That wasn't too bad. A lot going on over here on Winifred. Alright, after an investigator in any space performs an action, you may become delayed to perform the same action. Okay, so let's just start with Winifred, get her out of the way. She can stand herself up and then do one action. She's going to use that to attack the thrall here, who she gets to roll all her dice. Oh, I didn't even notice this. I needed to spend a remnant to stay from being cursed, but I definitely was going to spend that, so don't like being cursed. All right, boom. Look at that. I freaking crushed this hulking thrall. Give me my remnant back. There you go. All right, so her turn is done. So, now there's a clue in this area, but I feel like we definitely need to come down here and start addressing this. Although I could come down here and put myself in position here and then send Agatha over. 1, 2, 3. No, because then I would lose the buck. I would need to spend it back. So 1, 2, 3. Yeah, let's just go this way. 1, 2, and I'll have to spend $1 to move into that spot. Yeah, okay. I'm not a super big fan of it, but I'm worried about this. So we are going to attempt a ward action. Yeah, let's just go for it. Let's get lucky. Nope, we didn't get lucky. Okay. All right. So that's fine. And last but not least, we are going to, let me just remind myself here, terror. You gather support and organize resistance to the threat, test, influence. So I'm right where I need to be. Should I focus first? Yes, let's focus. All right, we're focusing. Then we are going to, hold on, one skill of your choice and gain 1 remnant. Okay, yeah. All right, so we are rolling 4 dice here. For each success you roll, you may discard 1 terror token or 1 terror card from your neighborhood. Ooh. Okay, for each success. So I rolled 2 successes, so I believe I can remove 1 token and 1 card. This goes at the bottom. All right, that was pretty successful. Okay, monster phase. There are actually no monsters on the board. So we move straight to the encounter phase. Let's start with Winifred, who's up here in Devil Reef. And this one says, so you technically just read the top. When you pull up alongside this small struggling boat, you see the lone occupant clutching a wound in his belly. He gestures wildly with a small knife and rants about sea devils. Spawn a clue. His eyes flick towards a badly hidden footlocker. You may attempt to help the smuggler or overpower him. So, first of all, let's spawn a clue. So it's going to be in Innsmouth Village. Okay. Okay. Boom. There we go. Please go back up there. And now, do we help the smuggler or overpower him? Let's try and overpower him. I've got strength. I don't want to lose my money. So I'm going to attempt to overpower him. You board the vessel and move to wrench the weapon out of his hand. Test strength. So let's go ahead and do that. No! Okay, hold on. Once per round, when you would fail a test, you may spend 1 focus to roll 1 additional die if you still fail the test. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to do this. I'm going to discard 1 focus token to roll 1 additional die. Yes, we passed. Okay. Whew. Whether you pass or not, you are able to subdue the wounded man and open the battered locker. Gain 1 curio. Okay. So, that wasn't too bad. All right, so looking over here, we need one that says curio in it. Actually, all of them do. So let's just take a quick look at all these, because this game is such a table hog, I can't even tell. So we have True Magic. There's a tome. You get +3 while casting a spell. Each 6 you roll while casting a spell counts as 2 successes. Well, that's nice, except I don't have any spells. You get +1 as part of an evade action. That's not bad. You get +3 while casting a spell. Once per round, you may pay half price while buying an item. Or you get +3 as part of a ward action. This right here. That way, I'm not such a wussy when it comes to warding off things. So, all right. That made my decision easier. Oh, no. All right, we'll pick those up here in a second. See, I got too much stuff. Too much stuff. All right, so these go back into the display, and we'll flip over this one. We now have a token of faith. All right. Okay, so that was Winifred. Now let's come down here to Mark. Let's figure out what all this terror is about. So we start with the terror card. There is 1 doom in our space, 1 terror. One of those we're going to pay attention to. So 0 to 2 terror. With a raspy howl, a hunched deep one courses after you with it on its bowed legs. Test strength. So let's go ahead and test our strength. We passed. Okay. So then this says, if you pass, you easily outpace the creature and escape. Okay, so that's it. So we don't need to know anymore. All right, then we get to do this one. All right, We are at the observatory. Within moments, you see 5 shooting stars streaking through the sky. Test observation, which is just 2 for me. And I passed. Doesn't matter that I'm not very observant. If you pass, you realize that they are all converging at a point above the city. Remove 1 doom from any space. Very nice. That was not a clue token, but I'll take it. Remove 1 doom from any space. From any space. 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 This space. This space. This space. Okay. All right. Now, Agatha, I feel like the odds I've got to draw one of those clue cards. I'm hoping it's the one I already know about. Let's see. Nope. It is a clue card, but someone has defaced the altar, painting symbols of Dagon on the walls. You or an ally may recover 2 sanity. Nope. As you help restore the sanctity of the church, you may become tainted to record the profane icons. If you do, you recall seeing the symbol on jewelry and lapel pins. Gain 1 clue from your neighborhood. So we're going to have to become tainted because I want that clue. So let's see here. Tainted is a whole bunch of conditions. They all appear to be all the same at the back. So, okay. All right. After you draw a blank or spawn clue mythos token, place 1 doom in your space. Reckoning, flip this card. Okay. Don't like that. Don't like the sound of that at all. Okay, but. Listen. I can now use my occult principle. After you gain a clue from your neighborhood, check. You may place 1 doom on your space, check, to gain another clue from the token pool. Check. If you do, flip this talent over. So now our talent becomes scientific method. After you perform a ward action, if your test result was 2 or more, you may perform a research action as an additional action. If you do, flip this talent. Ooh, I like that. Okay. So, boom. I'm just loving Agatha Crane. You old bird. Okay, so this now goes here, and the Historical Society is now the unstable space. Okay, but very successful encounter phase there. So mythos phase. Headlines. You suffer 3 damage and 3 horror unless you gain a dark pact condition. 3 damage and 3 horror? Are you serious? 3 damage and 3 horror. That is just dirty. I mean, I basically would have to run back up to Hibbs Roadhouse and spend some time there. Oh, man. All right. Dark Pact it is. So this one, I know there's several of them, and we shuffle them up and draw one. I think one of them is just like straight death. All right. So Dark Pact for Mark Harrigan. Okay. Gate Burst. I was wondering when that was going to happen. So the Gate Burst is the top card of the event deck, which is Innsmouth Village. Okay. So let's spread a little doom over here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ooh, doggy. Okay. That was not a great little round. Let's spawn a monster and entranced hybrid again. Spawn at the unstable space. Now, hold on. I always forget what this is, how you figure out, because we just got rid of it. If there are one or more cards in the event discard pile. If there are no cards in the event card discard pile, the starting space is the unstable space. Okay, so that was right here. Okay. And spread doom. See, if I had just drawn that one first, then we would have been fine. Marsh Refinery is going to get some doom. Oh, man. Poor Winifred. Poor Winifred. All right. So, Remnant. I literally just put a deep one out there. Spread terror in each neighborhood with a deep one. So that goes there, and we add a second card here. Burn. And, hold on, Dark Pact now has a Remnant, or Reckoning. So, after you draw a blank, nope. And here, Reckoning, roll one die. On a 1, your debt has come due. So, no 1, baby. No 1. 6. Perfect. Okay, so we don't flip that one. This one, however, we flip the Tainted card. This said, the voices in your head grow louder and louder, tempting you to do unspeakable things. Finally, they offer a blissful respite in exchange for a simple promise. The whispering quiets, but you know the presence behind them will return for its due. Test will, which is 2, and resolve the effect based on your test results. Well, that's not good. Boom! No effect. Discard this card. That's what you get, you jerks. Okay. I like it. I like it a lot. Alright. And a clue. Finally. Finally some good news. Okay. And this one is going in Innsmouth Village. So several clues there now. Winifred. What is Winifred gonna do? Okay. All right. So these can go away. Let's take an important step in the story here. So I can focus there, and hold on. You would draw and resolve a Mythos token. You may spend 2 remnant. Yeah, I lost mine. After you suffer 1 or more horror. No. Okay. Alright, so I'm going to focus first, and I'm going to focus my observation. Yeah. Focus my observation, and then I'm going to do, so that's 4 now, a research action. So, place clues equal to my test result on the scenario sheet. I'm hoping to get 2 successes here. I only got 1. Hold on. Oh. Okay. I'll wait and do that. Okay. Yeah, I already took my turn. So, here we go. That's fine. It's not nearly as fun as I would have hoped. So, okay. But we're not done yet, because Winifred up there can take a turn. So, yeah, I don't want to be here anymore. So let's move out of here. 1, yeah. going to stop right there. And I want to see where the story's going. So I'm going to do an observation test and try and move my one clue over. Boom. All right, so this comes over. And now we get to flip the cursed gold. When there are 2 or more clues on the scenario sheet, flip this card. The tainted artifacts are hidden throughout Arkham and the village of Innsmouth. Their ancient magic will corrupt the townsfolk and call hideous monsters from the depths of the sea to prey upon your friends and neighbors, and an offering to their corpses and blasphemous divinities. This cult holds sacred the foul overlords of the Deep One's mother Hydra. The Destroyer is a terrifying and monstrous beast unrivaled in power and ferocity, and Father Dagon, the progenitor, is surrounding always by a swarming horde of rapacious offspring. Create the investigation deck using cards 68 through 71. Shuffle the investigation deck. Add card 64 to the codex and return this card to the archive. All right, so luckily we keep these all in nice numerical order. So we want card 64. So that's one is going to come out. Boom. And 68 through 71 are going to go over here. And this becomes the investigation deck. Okay. And then this goes back 63 right there. All right. So we flip these all over. They have the same back. So it's set to shuffle these. Now we read card 64. This says your investigation has unraveled a few promising threads. You pray you'll find the cursed relics before the Deep One threat becomes too much to fight. White markers are leads. Face down white markers are still considered leads. When an investigator researches a clue, instead of placing it on the scenario sheet, they may discard that clue to place a lead face up in the neighborhood that has the most doom and does not have a lead. Encounter, you may flip a lead in your neighborhood face down to reveal the top card of the investigation deck. If it is an artifact, you gain it, otherwise add it to the codex. After a Deep One relic is revealed, if card 65 is in the archive, add card 65 to the codex. After 3 Deep One relics have been revealed, flip this card, even if 1 or more relics have been discarded. Whew. Okay, so this, I feel like, is a okay, so I need to continue to find clues to then place them onto this, discard them instead of placing them on the scenario sheet. If I do, I place a lead, then I have to go to the lead, and then in place of an encounter, I flip the lead in your neighborhood face down to reveal the top card of the investigation. Okay, whew. That's quite a mouthful of rules to be added in mid-scenario, but I think I got it. Either way, though, I am going to make sure. So I'm going to pause the video here. I'm going to make sure I understand these rules properly, and this is a great time to pause the video and pick up on an extended playthrough, because we've been playing long enough, plus the kind of how to play portion at the beginning. So we're going to pause here and pick up right after this. Be sure to just check out the video linking at the end of the video now soon to just continue on. So if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, including more videos in honor of Halloween and our 13 Games of Halloween little mini marathon, please consider subscribing to the channel. Once again, thanks for watching. Have a great day.